so many things that have been said today.
Too many.
So many things. But one thing I would say is you said about trusting people. So accountability, I think that is something that is underrated so much. Remember, so my dad, when he got remarried, he wasn't invited. So actually, one of my friends went to the wedding, and so he was asking him, like, how come you weren't there? And then unfortunately, my brother was on the bus, and this lady was just shouting at him, why didn't you disrespect me? He didn't know, So that hit me, but I didn't realize it until I started speaking as well. Like, and a couple of years later, I got a call from a fostering agency, saying that we need you to give a reference for so and so because they're fostering children. So in my mind, I'm like, why on earth is going to be fostering? So I gave a glowing reference, but inside, so you feel that thing sinking somewhere. But through a conversation with a mentor, just started talking. He asked me how things are going. And as I began to speak about what's going on, my mind literally, the emotions, everything started to come in. Because it's all well and good to be able to do it by yourself if you have emotional capacity. But some people, some things hit you and they compound bit by bit. But to be with somebody else and just to start organizing your thoughts, writing them down, sharing them. But one of the things that I found so powerful as well is writing down coping strategies. There was something one of my mentors did. He said, okay, how do you cope with your stuff? And before it would be pornography, it would be girls or whatever it was. But then literally, as I began to write down the issue, then write down the trigger, and there'll be a trigger somewhere. Something will trigger. If I saw somebody playing with football with their dad, something silly, bring something up. But then when I wrote down my coping strategies, I was thinking, so this is actually how I deal with things. And in that point about suicide, I literally feel that one of the main issues is because people have got the wrong coping strategies for issues that happen in life. Because pressure, no matter whether you're born again or not,
it's real.
You have pressure, but it's just a matter of how. So for me, the past 4 or 5 years is a matter of shifting my coping strategies from things that are wrong and things that are destructive to things that actually produce life. And I think actually, even though you can be a Christian, I believe in prayer, I believe in seeking God, but sometimes what can happen is even in the church, you can be guilty of just using spirituality to mask issues. So I feel like there is things being passed on, but there's still a level of brokenness in the technology because I believe in prayer, I believe in fasting, but actually, how did you get through? Because I don't know how to get through the thing. Tell me your story, and also what was the practical things. If you're still in it, I respect it, but how are you working through it? And I think that a lot of the times, even with men in the church, they're told, stop this, don't do that. It's one thing to be a man, it's another thing now to be a man of God. That's another dimension. So,
levels.
Be a man. Now it's be a man of God, and it's now men of God don't do this, men of God don't do that. But how? Work it through. What is the strategy? So I think that, practically speaking, Christ is the foundation, all that kind of stuff is true. And in addition to that, how do we work through the soul? Because I found that speaking to friends and mentors, doing that practical, even if it's once a week, let's just touch base, ask me some awkward questions, let's just talk. How are you doing? No, because this is the thing, most men, they talk, but here's how you doing? I'm fine.
I'm good.
So people talk, but they don't speak, or they speak, but they don't.
Speaking happens impromptu.
I think part of that is two things, right? If I tell you, you will judge me, right? If I tell you how I really am, you will think I'm not as strong. So I'll rather protect your thoughts about my strength, right? Than having to tell you how I really. And then two, I'm even scared to face how I am. Do you understand? 100%. Because I've got this door that I quickly shove every bit of pressure in and then shut it. Do you get what I'm saying? If I really tell you, we'll be here for days. Do you have? But if you're not willing to work through it with me, then I'm fine.
I think that's true. I think there's two reasons why people are unwilling to be accountable. I think the first one is passivity. Like you share it and nothing happens. Or like what you said, you share it with whoever it is and then they judge you. So then you now you are afraid or annoyed about something that you need.
Yeah.
I think
let me just quickly share.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Prince.
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 Today,
whole day.
Oh, hey! Only 1 hour.
Prince.
Prince about to speak.
Sorry.
No,
it's great to be able to listen to so many people. My experience is completely different, where you guys are able to compare the relationship with mom and dad. I didn't have neither. When I was growing up, I basically, went through a lot, basically. I grew up basically I was born in, my biological father was a king in the town that we grew up in. And because there was a lot, he married about 3-4 wives, so there's a lot of this juju stuff going on. So when I was 3 months old, my mom kind of left with my grandma. She came to this country, and of course my dad just never got in contact. So me growing up, I've seen perfection through my grandma's eyes. Does that make sense? I've seen strength, weaknesses, and everything through the way my grandma handles things. So I show love when I was growing up by helping. Does that make any sense? And expression was never powerful. So it got to a stage, I think the part that affected me the most when I was growing up was, it got to a stage my grandma couldn't handle a 3-4-year-old boy running around everywhere. I got to one of my aunties and she said, oh, I'll take him on. And while I was in her care, because she was a teacher, I was sexually getting abused by every different kind of woman that was coming in through the door. So like only get out was 6, 7, and you only get 14, 18-year-old kind of girls, like they'll come in and do whatnot. And you kind of growing up with that kind of secrecy, that kind of rejection, and it will be the case of, oh, I'll give you sweet if you allow me to do this kind of stuff. Or I'll buy you food if you allow me to do this kind of stuff. So I was kind of growing up thinking, okay, in order for me, so I was, okay, fine, I like sweet, or I like this, so I'll do it. So when I then go to people around my age, I was 7 or 8, I was not trying to do the same thing with 7 or 8-year-olds. And my auntie came in one day and go, what are you doing? I was just saying, I couldn't tell her what I've been going through, that kind of burden. So she was just laughing it off, saying, oh, these kids, playing kids. And so I hated my parents for it. So I kind of hated the fact that you left me in this situation. And I was an angry kid, I'll tell you that now. I was fighting everything. I was beating up everything. I'll be in school, I'll fight, literally, things I've done to some other kids around my age, because I was really strong. So I would just really beat up kids, stuff into their mouth, kick them, just walk away. Like, they were not human to me. They were just object for me to show that anger to. So coming to this country, I thought, okay, finally I can see my mom after 12, 13 years. And obviously she's remarried and have kids, so I thought, okay, finally I can have a father figure. Does that make any sense for me to be able to relate to? And kind of coming to this country, one of the first things my mom told me when I come here is, like, don't call me your mom, call me your auntie. Does that make any sense? She said, oh, because I married this guy here, all his family members don't know I have a kid outside this marriage. So I kind of come in, so for the first 2-3 years in this country, I have to call my mom auntie.
Did you stay with your mom?
Yeah, we're all in the same house. So I have to be like, oh, hi auntie, doesn't make any sense. And once again, I'm thinking, okay, this is the place of my affirmation, this is the place I will. So once I was still, because I was getting reward for what I was, the sexual stuff that was going on. So I was still treating everyone around me that if I do something great, I will get a reward kind of back. That's my way of relating to people. And I still continue that to the stage that, okay, when I stop doing things that pleases people, then I get rejected. So I thought to myself, okay, I don't want to get rejected again. So let me just become everything to every man. And a lot of emotional abusing was going on. A lot of African parents say a lot of things. A lot of verbal abuse was there, and I'm just thinking to myself that I've come here to. When I was on the plane, I thought to myself, I'm finally free. And what I'm sharing now, I've never told any members of my family that I was sexually abused by these individuals. And So now relating to my father here, my mom will be doing a lot of things to me, like shouting, all manner of words and cursing, and then my dad would just sit in the corner, who I just say to my dad, and kind of, this is the part you come in to save me or to help me. And he's just like, nah, that's your mother, whatever your mother says, it goes. And I just felt, once again, I felt betrayed again. And yeah, a lot of things just happened between that. I don't want to go too deep into that. But when it came to the place of not getting married, yeah, like I said, relating to women was different. I was relating to women based on acceptance. So it's not making any sense. I was relating to, I hated trying to talk to any father figure. Don't try it. Don't come there. I even like certain type of women opposite the woman that type of woman that did this kind of things. Does that make sense? I would look at women and go, okay, she reminds me of, I don't like that shape, I don't like that skin tone, I don't like that height, I don't like, does that make any sense? I only want to hear this kind of, because if I go with this, you remind me of every single thing that I hated. And I just thought to myself, a teenage year, I'm just going to hurt as many women as possible. I'm not going to be committed to you. I'm never, even when I told one of my friends I got married, she dropped off her seat, she said, how did you get from where you were to And when I met my wife, it was for the first time in my life I believe I could breathe. Does that make any sense? I believe all of a sudden my world slowed down and I just thought, who is this person? Does that make any sense? And I began to communicate with her more and more. And I began to grow in Christ. Came through where I got saved in university. But the thing with the parents is it still happened. So again, it's like your situation. It's not a case of it happened. And
it was done.
Yeah, the happily ever after.
He hasn't arrived. And when I then met my wife, it was a case of there was an uproar. That's the way I'm describing it. There was an uproar that happened. And every man, I've not seen a man in my family that outlived 45 years of age. Every man seemed to die just in the 40s. I died of disease, that's suicide. And every time a man wants to get married in my family, there's always an uproar. And he would then listen to what they say and eventually die. So I just thought to myself, and I meet my wife for a very young age, no matter what happens, I will keep to that decision. Because if not, I would die. So, and I said to myself, I'm going to do everything the right way when I got saved. I said, because a lot of people in my family all wedlock, children outside marriage. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to marry my wife. And then we're going to have children in marriage. And yeah, a lot of things are happening. Once again, I kept looking to my dad to say, this is the part you saved. This is the part you come in. Nothing. And I'll go to my uncles as well, the same thing. This is the part you come in, and they did nothing. And I open up to my heart. So even till now, I'm still finding it hard to open up. It's I think we went to soak, and the next day, I opened up to her about something. She's still finding out more things about me because she just said, "Why don't you talk?" I just said, "I do talk." She said, "No, you don't. You don't communicate your emotions with me." And like you said, I've seen in a relationship where my dad would say something to my mom, the pillow talk, but then it would get exposed in front of the children. So I promised myself, I said, never will I ever say anything to a woman that would break him. So any information I give you, when the argument comes, if you use it against me, you won't break it, because I've seen the impact it has on my dad, and I've seen the impact it has behind the closed door. And so every time my mom would say a lot of abusive stuff, thank God for Bishop. That's how I say for someone like mentor, because I learned how to, I told my wife, I said, I don't have the capacity to know how to love. I said, you have to teach me how to love. I said,
that's vulnerability in itself.
I said, I'm built for war. Something all my life I had to fight. I said, if you need someone to fight, I'm there. If you need loyalty, I'll give my blood, I'll give my vein. I say, but to love the way you want to be loved, I've not seen that. So I can't show you how to love you the way you believe you need to love. But if you want act of service, you know, all these, oh, men don't cook, men don't clean. I can clean all day.
I'll clean your house.
I'll clean every day. In fact, I said that anything that's to do with chemical, because I love cleaning bathrooms and toilet. I'll clean the bathroom. I'll clean the kitchen. I'll wash plate. I'll shoot.
Yeah.
I find that actually very
Strong story.
How do you be Prince? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, no, do you like?
How did you not commit suicide?
That's what I want. That's what.
What did you?
To be fair,
Well,
that's what I want
question.
to.
How do you navigate
Yeah.
this? How do you?
I think if you look at Prince, what you said, you are war, you embody, you encapsulate war, and that strong mentality. It's almost like I can't die.
Yeah.
That's the whole.
That's
like
the
what
one.
I got from you
Yeah.
is like you've pretty much been fighting from the jump, as in from the get-go. You basically said, I'm not going to die. When I go to school, I'm going to beat the hell out of whoever. No, but that's that war mentality from a young age, and because it's carried you through for such a long time, even the state that you're in now. And to be fair, I didn't even know that you were that kind of guy. Like, especially the way you're so well packaged. Like, honestly, because that is something I can relate to. Like, even when you were speaking, what resonated with me was like when you said, "Teach me how to love." Like, there's one song by Music Soul Child where it's like, "Teach me," and that song, it says, I think I was told the true definition of a man is to never cry, work till you die, got to provide, always be the rock for your family, and give them and protect them by all means, something along those lines. When I was growing up, and even from what I'm hearing from you, that's almost like the definition of being a man. I could never cry. My mum always used to say from a young age, Tim's alright. My sisters used to say, Tim's alright. So even when you're not alright, you have to say, I'm alright. And when I started transitioning in life, and now you're talking about relationships and so on and so forth, never communicate, never break. If I don't like something, because it's not a man, I'm not going to deal with it how I deal with a man. So you just keep your mouth shut, and you don't speak, you don't express it. And you have women say, talk to me, why don't you ever, Oh, don't worry, man. How do you?
The easiest, the way I think I only learned how to be dealing with it when I began to get closer with Bishop. I think because the world is full of hate and negative, and so for me that was comfort zone. The biggest threat I have for me was love. For somebody to come and say they love me, then all of a sudden I find you a threat. But if you come to me and point a gun at me, then I said, that's fine. So when my family was all doing that and my wife was finding me very new, I was thinking to myself, this is my comfort zone. So when they were throwing all manner of different things, text message, death threat, all that manner of things, I was thinking, I'm fine. She was thinking, how are you dealing with this? I was thinking, this is music to me.
This is love.
If you now turn around to me and go, I love you and all that kind of stuff.
And like start
You're the enemy. You're the enemy. So the best way I've dealt with it, to be honest with you, is I can go down, okay, Christ is Christ, no, but actually watching other men grow. Does that make any sense? I'm one of those people, I won't come and ask you questions. So I can watch, observe every single thing. So I'll go to Bishop's house, and his wife will say something to him, and the way he reacted, to me to today, he taught me how to react to my wife. He said, if Bishop can react like that, that means I can do it. Does that make any sense? I would just sit there and watch. So I'm never the person that will sit down and my wife is still teaching me how to communicate with people. She will sit down with me and go, this is how you say things to people, this is how you say things to people. Or, because to me, if I leave this room and I don't see you for the next 2 weeks, I just I can travel to another country and forget if I live in London. Because I go with the present. Because I try not to look back, because me looking back was just pain. So just completely block it out. So my wife is now almost a person that
bless your wife.
She's teaching me, and then now I look at my son and I'm thinking, I will make sure you don't come ever into this world. To the stage now that I've taken an extreme step of not introducing my son to my family, my extended family, because when he was born, it's supposed to be a great time. I was getting people going, oh, your child dies, or he doesn't make it. Or there's all that, and so to the extent where you sit down, you kind of go, okay, if you hate me, that's fine. If you hate my wife, that's fine. you know, this is
new.
So for the case now, so you know what, Perez, we're me and you are starting a new dynasty. It's not making any sense. So the blueprint I have, me and you together will build this blueprint with Christ. And I will sit with Bishop, I will sit with people that I've seen, and I said, son, this is how we can navigate being a man is. And so that we can not shoulder the responsibility of the past, so that we can be encouraged by what we can see in the future. So that's how now my son, I always call him, you know, El Uno, the first, the number one. Because I want to build the confidence in him. So when you see my son in the room now, he's not shy of anyone. He's not afraid of. He's one, but he can fight kids around. Kids will go to nursery and somebody will take his toys, and he sees Perez just fold and grab it back and move up. I'm like, someone says, "Oh, don't do that." I'm like, I look at him and go.
It's almost like your relationship with Bishop. You're replicating that with your son, and you're going to be that same example that Bishop that you saw. Your son's going to do the same thing. And I wouldn't be surprised that God has you doing it with other men. Because what you like, it's two extremes. Like, you're like the God of war, let's say. Small G, God of war, and then you're being taught how to love, nurturing, and obviously you got a little boy, and that's, for me having a son as well, that's just going to come. You're just going to see he's going to go through something, he's going to be crying. There's been times my son's crying, and it's come out my mouth. You know, men don't cry. Go back and I'm like, okay, so why are you crying? I have to explain. So I'm teaching him that men don't cry, that's not the truth. So I guess it's having trusted relationships with people where you can, that it's difficult, but it can happen, because obviously Bishop loved you unconditionally, it sounds to me. He took you on board and as you were, and he showed you what love is practically. And I think we have to have communication like these, and build that together, and be okay with being vulnerable, but not all of us know it, but we've all gone through things in which we can teach each other. But then it's, again, the whole thing about being a man, having that pride, or can I actually trust you? Would you actually use what I'm saying against you? So there has to be like a safe, because Lord forbid that we get married and we haven't developed this, we have to develop that with our wives. We don't have an understanding of what we've been through. It'll be troublesome. Because that's
Sir, I just wanted to point something out to Prince as well. You know how you say you've been fighting a lot. I think you speaking to your wife, and I was about to call her name. You speaking to your wife, and then and asking her to teach you how to love was what your way of fighting for your relationship. Do you understand? Like, you might think it's a new thing, but it's that I don't want to fail. I want to protect what we have. So even if it means me yielding for you to teach me how to be strong and strong for us, then that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, I think that's the best way to win, and you just continue to do that. There was a question I wanted to ask, actually. I wanted to ask, like, what would you say to someone, and this is for you, Sam. What would you say to someone who, like in your case about the fairy tale ending, it's not there? I think it was both of you that had that sort of, it's not there yet. How would you help them navigate and, you know, where they are?
I think, I can't remember who said it earlier, but you have pockets of hope just in your journey. Like, it's not the fairy tale or the thing you've imagined all along, but it's a step forward. Like I said, I think my brother is a huge, I don't think influence is the right word, but I think God has really used my younger brother a lot to show me that, okay, although you didn't receive it from Femi Allen Sr., there's a capacity that you have to utilize whatever grace, whatever gift, whatever you want to call it, I've given you, to impart onto him. And just going through the motions of that, it then sort of changes your perspective. It's not all doom and gloom. Just because it didn't happen this way over here doesn't mean it's a write-off for the rest of society. You know what I mean? So, I mean, building on the pockets of hope as well. Like, even this has been a process. Even the process of us meeting each other once upon a time, building relationships, networking, and then X amount of years later, we're now sat at the table with kids and all. I think I met you, Hertfordshire Union. I mean, do you get what I mean? This whole thing has been a process. You know, so it's to me, just again, this would represent a pocket of hope as well, and just building on this and going forward. Because like I've had scenarios where just in moments of frustration, like not being able to pick up the phone and call your dad, who's supposed to be your hero, like, alright, Mrs. is acting up. Like, how did you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I would say, like, who mentors the mentor? Who's fathering the father? Like, I would have conversations with some of my friends who really rely on me. You know, they're like, oh, I just feel like I'm gonna do this and I want to go crazy. And I'm like, yeah, I have those moments too. And they're like, oh no, you can't. You're silent. I'm like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Like, just because you draw strength from certain people doesn't mean those people don't need the strength themselves. You get what I mean? So, like, really utilizing moments that we have together, because time really isn't promised to no one. You know what I mean? But utilizing moments like this and then using it to come up with loads of different ideas. Like, just to add this in as well, I really feel as though the blueprint doesn't start and end with our homes. I feel like we actually have a responsibility to influence the way the church is going to look over the next 20 years. In terms of not to bash the church, but in terms of things that aren't working anymore, because they're actually barriers, as opposed to what's the thing that holds stuff together? They're hindrances as opposed to blessings. Do you get what I mean? And I feel like just this is a form of church, putting a camera in a room and asking young men to sit down. Do you get what I mean? And expanding or stretching people's perspectives on what we've become accustomed to. Like, okay, that worked for back then, but God is trying to move in different ways now, more influential ways. Like, this thing is spilling out from the gatherings that we're having in you know, wherever we're at. And I hope that answers it.
No, I think that definitely does, because I think one thing I'm learning and I'm picking up from here is that our generation is learning, for lack of a better word, the game. It's like no one has taught us, and we find ourselves learning while we work. Do you get what I'm saying? But then we also, like you said, have a responsibility to almost influence, and not just us, but those that we are running with in our generation. But we must now learn how to pass it on to the next generation, so they don't have to relearn kind of what you do with your son. they don't have to do that. It's already inbuilt in them. And to be fair, I'm even happy for them, by God's grace, because I pray that God gives us the grace to steward this very well, because they now have the opportunity, right, to build further than we have. You know, by God's grace, your children wouldn't have to learn how to be a son and a husband. They'll just learn how to be a son and then a husband. Do you get what I'm saying? And that's important, because that's something that keeps my mind focused, because I hate being selfish. So I keep telling myself, you're not just working for a happy marriage for yourself. You're creating a happy environment for your children to come in, learn what a family is meant to be like, right? By God's grace, you don't make as many mistakes, but when you make mistakes, own up to them, right? Build a restorative process and allow them to see that restorative process, because that's something that we didn't have. So that when they are now in the same sort of environment, they have learned from you, they avoid your mistakes but build on your triumphs. Do you get what I'm saying? And they now begin to overcome and overcome and overcome in Jesus' name.
What would you say to the young boy, or even men that haven't actually healed yet? They may be chronologically 35, 40, 25, whatever, but emotionally they're trapped at age 8. Or emotionally they're still 5 years old when they got molested. Like, emotionally they haven't developed, but chronologically they could be grown men. Or chronologically they're young and they're going through a painful time. They're in that, they haven't overcome yet. They're still in that season where you was. So imagine years ago how you felt in that moment. They're in that moment right now. What would you say to that person? To that boy, that man?
I think what Prince has done here today is,
it's monumental.
We've pioneered something just with that moment. And the reason why I say that is, I had to learn the hard way that suppression is an illusion of strength. You tell yourself that, I got this. But really, after having various breakdowns, you then realize that, okay, I think like Emmanuel was saying, there's something off with your strategy.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get back to the drawing board and rethink it. Here's what I anticipate happening, call it insight, call it prophetic, whatever you call it. I feel we're going to have to go through a season of transparency where people have to say this thing out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is going to be ugly, by the way. It's going to be gutsy. This is, I mean, just years of pain is going to come out. You're going to have people who you've had family members and you've known them your whole life and they've never shared with you that secret. And the moment it comes out, something is going to break in them, it's going to break in whoever they're connected to. But after all is said and done, it then comes back to the rebuilding process. But then the foundation is different because there's no secrets. The enemy doesn't have jurisdiction over this. Do you get what I mean? It's a completely new thing going forward. And it's not just a case of that person in themselves going forward, the whole unit goes forward. Do you get what I mean? Everyone else in that situation understands that, okay, there's a level of accountability that is now required. Like we owe it to, I say to my wife all the time, I owe it to you and the girls to be the best version of myself. So I practice transparency. I practice speaking, even though it's uncomfortable. Like we do a podcast and it's uncomfortable, like telling people your weaknesses, but the aim of doing something like that is, okay, I need to be an example of what that looks like. Do you get what I mean? And subconsciously people are starting to catch on to it. They're like, okay, yeah, cool, I think I can practice this. And we've had testimonies of people actually sharing secrets that they've kept hidden for X amount of years. Do you get what I mean? So I think exposure has to, that's where it starts. And then everything else comes after that.
I would say I put 3 things in place. One, you have to know that healing is possible, but the battle is daily. Healing is possible, the battle is daily. The enemy will always try to come in. Those negative emotions from that moment or the group of moments will always try to creep back in. But 3 things. So the first thing, like you said, is transparency. But first, transparency with God, admitting that, mate, I've got a problem in this area. Because until you acknowledge that it's there, it still has power over you. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, until you confess it. The Bible says if we don't confess, you know, we make him out and make ourselves out to be liars. But when we confess, he is faithful and just to forgive. That word confession is not just a confession of sin, it's a confession of the battles, your weaknesses. Even Jesus confessed his weakness. It says, if it's possible, let this cup pass over me, right? But until he confessed that he was weak, there was no way he was going to be made strong. Do you understand? 3 times he said it. That's to show you that with Jesus himself, he didn't just go away. He had to keep going back till that thought or that emotion was destroyed. And the Bible says when he prayed, God sent an angel to strengthen him. Now that's the spiritual aspect. Confess, be honest, and be truthful in where you are in terms of the state of your soul before God. So pray about it, 1. But 2, practical steps. Go and speak to somebody physically, someone that you trust, someone that won't sit down on pity patty with you, but someone that is well equipped to help you see your way through, to converse you out of it. You know, almost, have you played that game where you have a blindfold and you have to receive instruction from someone's voice? Do you get what I'm saying? Right, that person, you have to acknowledge that you need that person. So that's what conversations with mentor, you know, my mentor is Bishop as well, right? Going to him and say, look, I prayed about it, but I need some conversation. Help me navigate through this. But then practically by the coping strategies, I actually have coping strategies as well. So I used to deal with lust and pornography back in the day, especially in the summertime. You know, when everybody feels like, you know, they don't have enough money to buy the rest of their clothes. And so what I found myself doing coming to Christ was, my environment, I always say, can either help me or hinder me. So when I'm on the train just chilling and, you know, this amazing, beautiful lady feels like she can display her beauty to the rest of the world, comes onto the train. The moment I see that it's doing something on the inside of me, by the next stop, I will get off and move to the next carriage, because I know that that's a trigger. It might not, nothing might happen there, but when I'm by myself, the thoughts might come through. So I put practical things in place to be able to deny lost a place of influence. Don't forget, I've conquered it spiritually, but then my eyes are gates, my ears are gates. So what I'm saying is, with you, be careful of environments that can feed, you know, a negative emotion, and deal with it that way. But then, like I said, you're going to remember those memories. You're going to remember those incidents. It's going to come up over. I mean, I still think about, and you know, my dad has apologized about some things, but I won't lie to you. Sometimes I still think about those things, and I see those emotions trying to creep back up. But learning how to say, no, we've moved past this. I am not, someone said this, I am not my, I think you said it, I am not my negative thoughts.
Oh,
yeah. Like actually being able to say, I am not, this is not me, I refuse to take it on, and dealing with it that way. But it's not just going to be a one-time thing, it's going to be you having to continue to declare your victory. And the more you declare your victory, the easier it is to be able to overcome those things. So I'm not sure if that wraps it up.
I was just going to say 2 points in that as well. I believe everything that you guys are saying in terms of helping with the process. For me, mentorship really helped. But Paul said something so profound, and he said that he boasts in his weaknesses. And I think in society, even in church, there's this mask that we put on, and it's easy for a man to boast in their strength. It's so easy to say, yeah, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. That's why, like what you said, you used to do sports. You was obviously, I'm guessing you was good at sports, so you boast in sports, it made you feel comfortable. But I think we have to learn the power of being able to boast and able to say, listen, I've got this weakness, I've got that weakness, I've got that weakness, and not thinking it makes me a weak person, but it's just something I'm going through. It's just a struggle that I have, or something that I've been through that I need to deal with. So learning that a weakness doesn't make you any less of a man. It doesn't make you anything less of a human. It doesn't make you anything less than what we are here today. A weakness is something that everybody goes through. Everybody has a weakness. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If your weakness is, no one's weakness is greater than someone else's weakness or anything. It's just somebody's weakness. And secondly, I also believe in the power of making a decision. So you have to make the decision to say, okay, cool, I want to step out of this. Because honestly, we see, if we look in scripture, we look in life, the enemy is after people's decision. The enemy is really after people's decision. It's our decisions that we make is where we go wrong. So for me, it was saying, I made the decision, and it's like, there's power in your will. Once a man says in the heart, cool, I'm going to do this, a man will do it, no matter what. If you say, I'm not going to sleep with this girl, you won't sleep with this girl, because there's power, especially in men. The men have got real strong will. So once you decide something, you have to make the decision to say, oh, cool, I want to step out of this. And you got to say, okay, cool, no matter, like you said, it's a daily battle. That's why a lot of people are not able to deal with lust and things, because they think, oh, someone's going to lay hands on me and that's it. No. Character doesn't come just overnight. It's discipline, and discipline hurts. Do you see what I'm saying? No one likes discipline. So once you make that decision, you got to say, okay, cool, strategies now. And you got to say, cool, you got to make a decision, I'm going to stick to this no matter what happens, no matter how hard it gets. I'm going to suffer. If my body wants to do what it wants to do, I'm going to say, no, this is what you got to do. So I think the power of making the decision and sticking to that decision, having the integrity to now stick to the decision and doing what it takes to stick to the decision, to overcome what you're going through. So in terms of the mentorship, in terms of speaking to people, when it comes to mentorship, if I don't see, when it comes to like picking mentors and stuff, I want to pick someone that I want to be where you are. So in terms of Prince, Ade, these two of my mentors, I see in Prince in 4 or 5 years time, 6, 7 years time, I want to be where you are. Married, kid, business, you got what I'm saying, hustle on. Ade, do you see what I'm saying? He's married, house, everything. I want to be where you are. And also it's about picking people that have experienced what you've experienced. Because you can give me Bible, you can give me head knowledge, but that's not what I need right now. I need to know, what did you do when you was in that circumstance? How did you overcome that? I don't want to know what the scripture says. I know what the scripture says. That doesn't help me. When I'm in an argument with my girlfriend, I don't care about the scripture, what it says. I want to know what you did when she was shy and you put her finger in your face. That's what I want to know. That's the realist.
I sit with men of God that are, doing great, profound things, like anointed worship leaders. I take them out for dinner, right? And they're probably thinking that I want to ask them about worship. I'm like, no, you've been married for this long. How does that work? So you're right. Sorry, I just wanted to show you that. That's dope.
It's real, because I think it's so important to know, to speak to people that have been where you've been.
because it's even though people that haven't been where you've been can help, but there's nothing that experience. There's nothing like, yeah, I went through this and this is how I came out of it. Do you see what I'm saying? And that heals in itself, and it gives you hope as well, because it's all good to say, yeah, you can go through this by doing this, this, and this, but what did you do? Like, how did you practically get out of it? How hard was it? How tough was it? How long did it take you? Do you see what I'm saying? And there has to be truthful as well, and know that it's not going to be easy. Like, it's not easy dealing with lust. Even now to this day, like you said, summer's around the corner. It's here, not around the corner. It's here.
And it's here.
It's real hot. Like, it's still there. Like, I still see. I'm a guy. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm attracted to women. Do you know what I'm saying? So if I see a girl with that's got a battery rider, which needs to be abolished in Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Then you're trying to climb up the escalators and you're looking. Especially that Waterloo one that's like this.
I didn't even try to comment over you.
I was apart. This is so funny. Apart there, went to Tesco to buy something, and I can clock. There's no man you can just
Yeah.
It's in your
I remember for some reason the girl started adjusting wherever she was adjusting. Maybe she said that she could be seen more.
Yeah.
I just looked into the light. Shut down my salvation. Bearing in mind my wife was in the car. So when she came back out, when I came back, she said, "Oh, do you notice that girl that she was just on the car?" I don't even know.
You know what? I even invite my wife. I'm like, look at your sister. Look at what she's I won't lie to you. Because I had to conquer this thing, like, you know, and it's a daily battle, but I had to deny a place of influence. So when I got married, I needed a coping strategy, right? So I'm like, babe, look at that girl. You understand? Look at what she's wearing. Like, can you see what she's wearing? And my wife is like, babe, why are you judging her? I'm like, we need to judge her. We need to judge her, because I'm telling you, it's as guys, right, especially men of God, and you know, even if you're not Christian listening to this, and you know you need to keep yourself, you know, yes, meet Christ, I definitely want that, but you have to understand that you need to be able to know that your environment will either help you or hinder you. When you're going up those escalators and you're going to see certain things, dude, just look away, because once that thing gets into your mind, it takes 3 seconds, right? And something that comes into your mind, like you just blinked at it, you spend the next 2 weeks casting down every imagination and thought. So why would you allow something like that to come into your mind that will take you 2 weeks to cast out? Do you get what I'm saying? So, like, you're very real, man. Like,
I just say sometimes, not me today. Not saying.
No.
Not me today. Say
man.
Not me.
Nah. And I know it's hard, but sisters, please, you know, help us.
You know, I think you have to make it also, as well as that, you have to use even media, you know, your phone.
Yes.
I can't go to Instagram Discover anymore. Maybe I take a long list to search button. No way, I can't.
There's a thing called Covenant Eyes. You guys have Covenant Eyes. It's literally internet accountability. It cleans your laptop, your phone, so it's powerful. 4 years.
Covenant Eyes.
Yeah.
Wow.
You pay a bit of money every week, and then it literally sends updates of everything that you go on the internet to your accountability partner.
Wow.
So it isn't just about pornography, it's also about it's also about how you use your time. Because sometimes you can be on Facebook just browsing. So one thing I do, I catch up with my friend every week or every other week. We just talk about what's going on. It doesn't have to be about lust. It could be how you're using your time. You know? And you find that, because I feel as well, some of the issues, you said something so powerful, some about the deliverers needing deliverance. And what's in my mind is, you know, Samson. Samson was someone strong, he had all the power, but then there was a point whereby imagine how strong that woman was. He was strong, but she was stronger than him to actually take his power away. So we're visual, you know, and I find that I have to always keep my focus, you know. But I think when it comes to the thing you said about what to say to someone who was younger, I would say, you know, no matter what you find yourself in, there's hope. There's hope, you know, no matter if it's depression or it's whatever it is, there is hope. And I think a lot of the times people lose hope, you know. And as much as there's accountability as well, there's something that you said about decisions. Yeah. And I find that freedom is not a destination first, it's a decision. So if you make that decision day to day, then freedom is deeper than just how long it's been, it's actually the mindset that you have, you know? Because you can be free in whatever it is, from rejection, depression, lust, but if you don't continue to make the decision, you find yourself in the same place. So I find that rather than just having a long-term view, but for my life, I found that actually today's the day. Yeah. Today, I'm gonna pursue purity today. I'm gonna communicate today. I'm gonna forgive today. And I think forgiveness is a big thing as well, because you can blame everyone. And I remember watching this. I read this article. It was about a man who was an alcoholic, and his two sons were interviewed years later, and they asked. One of them was like a bank manager or something. One of them was an alcoholic, and they asked, you know, what brought you here? And both of them said, you know, my dad was the reason for being in this position. So literally, they had the same experiences, but one was an alcoholic, another one was a bank manager, and the same reason which motivated them was their dad. So I feel like whatever the situation is, you can use it, you know, to sort of advance.
I think for men of our standard, because we're here, we're being open, I think it starts with us first. I think we're the new revolution of men that will bring change. And the Bible says, my strength is made perfect in your weakness. And I think we have to be the individuals who make weakness a strength. Similar to as you said, and make that, not popular, but make that as normal as possible. So even if it means going on a podcast and talking about those things, even if it means if you're a place of influence and you're able to use that influence to speak and just talk about it, like you have to be comfortable. We have to firstly be comfortable with our stories and the things we go through to the point where we can speak about it. Because sometimes it's easy to do it in church, everyone knows you, whatever. But I mean, you take ownership. There's power so it's decision, and it's just being able to know that, you know what, because I'm 35 next year, right? So when you said about being 35 or whatever, and still 18, I'm thinking about my peers, and I'm also thinking about the younger ones who look up to me. They don't think I'm 35, they think I'm 26 or whatever. So when I start to speak to them and they're hearing me, they're like, oh, because I work in youth, so they're like, oh, sir, how old are you? And I tell them, and then I realize that, you know what, the more I expose to them, the more they look at me and think, what, so you've gone through all of that, and you're okay? Because people have, perception is people's reality, really and truly. So at the end of the day, if we're able just to be bold enough and courageous enough to just say, you know what, I went through this, and this is, like, openly, I'm talking about not really caring what people think of you. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about just sitting here and doing it. I'm talking about really not caring and knowing that I know what I'm doing is going to free someone because I've experienced freedom. I'm not going to say that we should just talk, because if we haven't experienced freedom, because as I said, perception is reality. So somebody might perceive you to be free, and if you're not really free, they're going to start asking you questions to help them. And if you haven't gone through your process, then you're going to be stuck unless the Holy Ghost shows you. But it starts with us, man. I think this is just the catalyst. I don't know about you guys, but for me sitting here, my mind's already like people that I've spoken to, people that things that have been said to me, and I'm like, you know, what am I going to do with this? Because now we're all accountable. Yeah, definitely. Like, to be real true. Here, we are all accountable, and we have found our strength. For us to be here and speak about it, we've found our coping mechanism. We've found a way for us to, we've linked it with God, and also we've got experiences in which we can draw from. What are we going to do with all of those tools? So that's the challenge, is that we have to do something. Even to live this, like, I have friends where they're very hardened. I went to my pianos with a friend, and midway through the conversation, he was literally like, oh, I didn't even plan to say this, you know. And in my head, I'm thinking, I planned for you. I planned for you to speak, bro. And it's just creating that environment and obviously, spirit is spirit, regardless. And if you're going there with good intentions and not necessarily thinking, I'm going to get you to open up, I just want to know, I just want to get to know you. And if you get to know you, I'm going to expose myself because I'm comfortable with doing so. With Prince, like, totally, I love the fact that you said that your family members don't know this. So there's a level of comfortability which he's been able to open up. Now that's, imagine if certain people that didn't even know you or perceived you a particular way, you said that, they're gonna come to you, ask questions. Okay, so how did you go through this? Because I've got questions for you, to be honest with you. So I guess it starts with us first. That's my answer for that. It starts with us first, ownership, and just being like, God's strength is made perfect in our weakness.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think the kind of underlying current that's been going throughout the conversation is this idea of transparency and an idea of openness, and the fact that healing can come in sharing. And you don't feel isolated when you know someone else has been there or someone else is there. So the fact that, I thank you so much for coming, because the fact that we were able to be open and share our truth and show people that yes, I've been here and yes, this is my truth, but I'm able to overcome it. I've been through my process. So even though you may be in a situation where you're feeling how I did 5 years ago or 10 years ago, you're still in that stage and you haven't come into it's daunting. The healing process can be daunting because you have to face a lot of things that are uncomfortable. But you sitting here is showing people that yes, it's daunting, but you can pass through it. And you can come out on the other side. So thank you so much for being here today. I don't want the conversation to end here. I actually want to have you guys back again, because there's so much more that we can delve into. There's so much more people out there that we can reach and we can encourage and we can inspire and bring about God's healing. So I just thank you all for coming here today.
Thank you. Well done.
About me, but I hate the color of my hair. I hate the hair on my skin because it's blonde. And I remember at school